shared screen. Well, welcome everyone. Happy Pride, happy Juneteenth coming up. This is the June monthly meeting for Central Park United Neighbors. This is Liz Stolliger, the board president speaking. I'll do a quick introduction and overview of our agendas tonight. So about Central Park United Neighbors, we're the registered neighborhood organization, or RNO, for the Central Park community. We provide a working forum for the residents of Central Park to participate in creating, developing, fostering a vibrant urban community dedicated to social equity, environmental responsibility, and economic opportunity. At our monthly meetings, we facilitate the discussion of key issues with neighbors, engage in proactive problem prevention, and amicable problem solving. CPUN is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our community. Our mission is the betterment of the city of Denver by providing a forum for residents living in Central Park to discuss and resolve issues, a network of communication, means of acting on matters of importance to the community as a whole. We promote public service, civil civic discourse, collective efficacy, and we're an all-volunteer board of Central Park residents and a registered 501c3. So for tonight, we've had very crowded agendas recently, so we're trying to have a little bit more breathing room. We'll do, we're doing the agenda overview now. We have probably it will take us literally 2 minutes to do officer elections, and then we'll move into community partner updates and a couple of report outs. And then we'll have a brief treasurer's report, and then we'll jump into just RNOs and CPUN committees 101. This is for a refresher for all of our board members and any newcomers or new board members about the work that our committees do, how to get involved, and kind of just looking at successes, upcoming projects and priorities, and where we have a lot of needs. And then we'll do a look ahead for the next few months. Just kind of upfront, we actually don't have a July meeting traditionally. But for anybody who's around, Carol and I will have to kind of we'll figure it out. Rock, paper, scissors over it, but one of us will be hosting a happy hour for the CPUN board members who are in town. And then we'll do an August look ahead. So just really quickly, the CPUN officer nominations, just as a reminder for folks, the CPUN officer roles is a 1-year term. It kind of gets re-upped every year. If folks are interested, over the course of the year of taking an officer role, apart from those of us who are on that list, just come see me and we can talk about it. In general, it's uncontested. So I am asking if folks would support me for board president again. We have Carol for vice president. We did have an open slot for secretary, and David has put his name in the ring. I think a brief statement. And then Brian Penny, who has been our treasurer since 2004, has, said that he would like to be treasurer if there's nobody else. And so I'm not sure if he's able to join us tonight. He's traveling, but he'll be joining later. And then there's also the past president officer role, and that's Amanda Allshouse. So yeah, if you wanted to.
The sharing of historical knowledge to help with the smooth transition to our now 3rd year serving president seems a little bit moot at this point, I guess. Well, so gosh, what has it been, 5 years since I was president then? 4 years? Yeah. It's been a long time. I've been part of organizations where you always have a sitting incoming president, and outgoing president. It's just kind of have more of a continuum. This board has historically had someone serve as president, and then as soon as they stop serving, they are out. And so I was trying to just not do that. And one day I'll pass it off to you, Liz.
I'll let you know.
You're sticking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have really appreciated the ability to just kind of bounce off, like, had to kind of have another set of eyes and another brain to kind of think through some of these things. Um,
Light lifting.
Yeah.
so yeah, and so anyway, I will say this, so this will be my third year, or beginning like my third year as board president. And it is a lot of work, but I feel like we're kind of just beginning to kind of shape where we want to be as an organization, kind of post-COVID. So I'm happy to kind of stay on board and kind of keep herding cats. If you have any statement, Carol?
No, I don't have any words of wisdom. No, I just feel like I'm in a very supportive role. She and I collaborate a lot. It's just, and I get the phone calls and I get the emails and I like all that. I just like offering support to the whole team.
I did get a phone call from Aurora Water today about a water leak because apparently my phone number is still listed with their contact.
Oh, okay.
Past president.
And I
It's good that you feel.
I sent them to Jeff, or not Jeff, Jack.
Okay. But yeah, if there's more of that stuff, if you can find out where your number was listed, we can update it, so it doesn't have to go to you.
Probably about that. That's what we do.
Or I can find that in bylaws. All right, and David, if you,
Yeah.
since you.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed being part of CPUN in the last year, and there was a need. I'm willing to fill it. I really enjoy working with Liz and collaborating with Liz. I want to get more involved in the communications and outreach committee. I really like doing outreach. I'm always going to events and I always like sharing events.
To each other today, same.
Yeah. So it's like I'd really like to represent CPUN in that capacity and also maybe do outreach to maybe get more people hopefully involved with our organization. And I also have the capacity. So yeah, that's what I got.
All right, so that's your slate for officers, folks. Thank you, David. If I think that the way that we always do this is if anybody has any objections, feel free to speak up. Otherwise, the kind of officer slate just goes. So, also, I can't see anything in the chat.
I'm
that I can
watching
share on
chat.
my screen. Okay, if there's anything. Thank you.
Oh, Mandel, the entire slate. Thanks, Mandel.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we're good to go. Let's move on. Thank you for another year. So, okay, and now we're just gonna jump into community partner updates. We don't have any guest speakers, so feel free to kind of take some time if you'd like.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Carey. I'm the Senior Council Aide for Councilwoman Lewis. I do have a couple of updates from City Council District 8 tonight. But before I start, we actually have two interns who are working with the office. They have graciously given some of their time tonight to see CPUN and have been making a tour of the other RNOs in the district. I will let our interns introduce themselves, starting with Fiona.
Hi, I've got a bit of a cough, so I'm wearing a mask, but my name's Fiona. I'm from Longmont, so way up north, but moving to Denver very soon and very interested in the local political space. I just graduated from CU Boulder.
Hey everyone, once again, I'm Austin Murphy. I was born in Denver, but I currently live in Aurora, Colorado, 23 years now. I got my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. And now I'm currently pursuing my MBA online at North Carolina Central.
Great. All right, the interns will be with us until early August, and they are helping out with sort of everything in the office. Our constituent response person has them working on a lot of constituent response. So if you have something that you want to reach out to District 8 for in the next couple of weeks, there's a pretty good chance that our interns will be handling it, but we also have some policy work for them. And then the community outreach, like attending all the RNOs. Moving into, I do, like I said, a couple of updates. I'll start with the Central Park specific stuff first, and then if there's a little bit of time, I'll go into more of the District 8 side of things. The first one is Councilwoman Lewis attended CPUN last month. and gave some updates on the bond as well as some of the projects in the neighborhood, including the intersection at Central Park and MLK. Obviously, this has been a saga for many years of getting these improvements done. At that meeting, she shared that we had been in contact with the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, and there were 2 open construction tickets for that intersection to make those improvements. We did some further digging and work with Maggie and got some updates on what those construction tickets actually mean. So the first construction ticket will be working on better integrating bike lanes, basically through the 4 intersections, which Dottie refers to as a square about. And so the first ticket is just related to bike lane infrastructure. And then the second one, which is the more recent ticket that has been open, will include retiming the signal to include leading pedestrian interval. That should improve pedestrian safety there. It will also reduce the number of turning vehicle conflicts, which for the square about, where there's basically two-way traffic, both north, south, and east, west. It should really help with that turning vehicle traffic. And then they'll be relocating the traffic lights to actually correspond with the lanes, one for each lane. So it should make it a little bit clearer where you're supposed to go. And then they'll be removing the existing yellow edge line on the southwest corner of the intersection. And then they'll reinstall the edge line, and they'll actually be putting in posts so you can see where the intersection is sort of bounded. That should improve sort of it's called channelization, but basically it just makes sure that the vehicles that are waiting are actually in line with each other and they're not sort of standing off from each other when they're in line. And then it will also protect pedestrians on the corner. So all of this is open and hopefully starting soon. Unfortunately, the only information we weren't able to get from this last batch of updates is sort of the literally $1 million question of when are they starting? Still working on that one, but hopefully in August I'll have an update on when that starting date is. So that's the intersection there. I wanted to turn to the bond project updates or the vibrant bond updates. Again, Councilwoman Lewis spoke quite a bit on this when she was here last month, but just wanted to give you a little bit of detail about some of the Central Park specific projects that were submitted and sort of the status of those. So the main one for Central Park, there's about $70 million worth of bond money allocated for the improvements for the replacement of the Smith and Sandown bridges on Quebec, as well as the part of Quebec that actually goes over Airlawn. It's the railway access. Right now, the bridges at Smith and Sandown are at the end of their useful life. They will actually be getting load limits put on them soon because they are quite old. They've had various patch jobs over the course of their lifespan, but they need full replacements. And so the bridges for those 3 bridges have been included in the bond package. Currently, everything is working its way through the executive committee, but the executive committee spent a good 10 minutes solely dedicated to these items in their most recent meeting, just discussing the important need for it. And so they've been included as a sort of tier 1 highest priority. There's a very good chance that these will be included in the next bond package that you all will vote on in November. So that's the main one for Central Park, but we have also included a number of other improvements. So we submitted a request for a hawk light. That's basically like the stoplight for pedestrians to cross at MLK and probably Clinton. It'll be Dottie's job to decide where it goes, but basically we cross for the Central Park Rec Center because we've heard that that's a very dangerous intersection. People just kind of run across MLK. So that's one that we've included. We've included some crossings at on 56th to get to the schools there. And there is another one for the throughway improvements through Northfield as it transitions to 47th into Montbello, improvements there. All of those are included in a tier 1 project for traffic calming and pedestrian safety. So there's a pretty good chance that those will get lumped in. Those are most likely going to be included as a citywide package, but they will be on the sort of lists of sub projects within the citywide package. So Central Park does have a number of improvements coming in this bond package. Most of them are related to traffic and infrastructure. 56th.
It wasn't her last name, but it was something like Alhan.
Smith, Sandown, and then Erlon. It's the old, it's actually, the bridge is actually Quebec, as Quebec goes over Erlon to the I-70 interchange. It's the old railway access that doesn't exist as a railway anymore, but the railway wants to keep its right of way, so Quebec will continue to be a bridge. Basically right by the Aspen shelter at 4040 Quebec. So that's bond updates. Moving a little bit outside of actually one more update for Central Park. So the councilwoman has been working on the Quebec Corridor Task Force. This involves East Colfax, it involves Northeast Park Hill, and then it involves Central Park. And it's really a question, it's a community-driven process to sort of help determine the long-term land use planning for the Quebec Corridor, during the duration of the all-in mile high shelters, but also as those programs, hopefully do what they're supposed to do, and we're able to shut those shelters down. And so we're looking at what we can do to integrate Quebec better for all of the surrounding neighborhoods. Right now, it's kind of a moat that separates all of our different neighborhoods. And so we do have this longer term planning initiative. As part of that, the Community Planning and Development Office has started a neighborhood planning program. It's I think the Near Northeast Plan is what they're calling it. It includes all of Northeast Park Hill, and then it includes basically like the first like half mile of Quebec heading to the east. I'm not sure exactly what the cutoff point in Central Park is, but it does include part of Central Park. And this will be basically shaping land use decisions for the next 20 years in long-term plan guidance within this neighborhood plan. So that will be a community-driven process. We have been having Quebec Corridor Task Force meetings. Those are open to whoever wants to attend. I believe the next one is on June 25th. So coming up here, highly recommend you attend. I will put, I will send Liz the location date and time, and then yeah, feel free to show up and make your voice heard on that. I think that's largely all of my updates. I'd be happy to answer a few questions. Yeah.
Nice to hear there was an asphalt development plant or.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit what
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, so the asphalt plant is it's out on Smith Road, and it is also at the end of its life. The city actually does its own asphalt production, which is fairly unique as far as municipalities go. From what I understand, we have to contract with other companies to get the petroleum products in, but then all of the actual asphalt manufacture is done at the plant. And then that's given over to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure to do all of the actual resurfacing. That plant is at the end of its life. And so it would probably save the city lots of money in the long run if we didn't have to buy finished asphalt and we could continue to manufacture it. It is as a tier 2, just because of the way that it worked its way through whatever subcommittee that it came from. That's basically, that subcommittee decided that it was a middle tier priority instead of a highest priority. But that's what that's regarding.
That's the one off Smith. It's not the one closer to 56, because I think there's one at like 56 back.
Yeah, and they're redeveloping that or something. We've gotten contacted by an architect who's like, there's something happening with that, but
Or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that-
Interesting.
Yeah,
At 56 in Quebec.
yes,
Post office.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, near the post.
Yep.
So you said it's in a place, what's the plan for that?
I honestly don't know. I can try to find out, but I think the plan is Dottie we do know that the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure submitted it as their second highest priority. So they want to keep the asphalt plant going. I think the question is sort of where do we scrounge up that funding if it doesn't make it through the bond process? And that's ultimately, right now, it's with the executive committee to make that determination of whether or not it's included. And then city council will have one more crack at it. And because the executive committee proposes the initial bond package, and then city council has to pass that bond package out to place it on the ballot for the voters to approve it. So city council will get another chance to make amendments on whatever the initial bond package is. But it's gonna be kind of tough because currently there's $6 billion of projects submitted against an $800 million bond package. So it's kind of up in the air. Yeah, so I think, I think a lot of the District 8 priorities are related to amenities. When Councilwoman Lewis was here last time, she talked about the last 8 years of bond funding and sort of what the district has gotten. We've had 46 projects completed in that time. 19 of those are road repavings, and that's great, but it's a road repaving. We've had the construction of the District 5 police station. And then we've had a number of improvements to the Roslyn Fire Campus as well as the fire stations in the district, and that's sort of been the limit of the investment. And so this bond package, her highest priorities are really to increase some of the community facilities, especially out in East Colfax, which doesn't have a rec center, it doesn't have a library. And so those are two very high priorities. Building out some community space in Montbello, that's a priority. Building out an expanded senior center in the R.E.P. Taylor Municipal Building. Councilwoman was able to get that opened last year, and it's already oversubscribed. So it's a huge success. There's a real need for it. And so building out some of these more community-driven types of investment is what we're looking for. And then below that, just really trying to meet communities with the needs that they have. So again, like a hawk light at MLK and Clinton, just to keep people safe when they're using the rec center. Those are the sort of additional kinds of priorities that she's thinking about.
That's one of our agenda items, actually.
Oh, great.
Talking about, because it came up during our most recent DEI committee
Okay.
meeting, was asking our neighboring RNOs, like, what are the needs in your communities? But then also looking at kind of the low-hanging fruit of supporting other communities around us and kind of getting the sort of community gathering spaces and amenities that, we've enjoyed here because of the particular way that our neighborhood was planned and invested in through developer, just making sure other neighborhoods around us also can benefit from spaces too in their own communities. So, okay. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. And then I think we have Lieutenant Hines with District 5 on the Zoom. You want to unmute yourself and give us your update?
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I have to apologize. I'm working from home right now. My kids are making noise inside, so I'm sitting on a porch talking to you for a change. Anyway, I am Kevin Hines. For anybody who hasn't met me, I am the lieutenant responsible for Sector 1 of District 5. Now, I mentioned the district because a lot of times people get confused between the council districts and the police districts. District 5 as a police district covers the Central Park neighborhood as well as Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, Gateway, and the Tower Road corridor. So our Sector 1 is all of Central Park, which is located within Denver. And the Central Park neighborhood's divided into two precincts. Precinct 511 is north of I-70 and Precinct 512 is south of I-70. I'll kind of run you through a quick crime update, kind of what we're seeing recently. As I've talked about in the past, the most common thing we see in the Central Park neighborhood is property crimes. And of those crimes, the highest number we've had is larceny, which accounts for a little more than probably 2/3 of our property crime. Larceny primarily is shoplifting crimes. We have two big retail centers in Sector 1, the Northfield Mall and then the Quebec Square Shopping Center. So between those two areas, we get a lot of shoplifts, and that kind of is the explanation for why you have such a high larceny rate. A lot of times when people look at base crime statistics and they say, oh, why is crime seem so high on a pure number basis. It's mostly related to those larcenies, which again are often retail shoplifts. Violent crime only accounts for about 12% of the crime right now in Sector 1. We, as you might expect, find the higher number of offenses occur on Friday afternoons after 3 p.m. It's kind of a hot time for crime in the area. But beyond the issue of just crime stats, I wanted to talk about a couple issues that have been brought up by neighbors and a couple things that have come to my attention that I wanted to make sure the community was aware of. First, we've had a couple of complaints about gunshots being fired around park areas, sort of in the general vicinity of the Central Park Rec Center at night. We've only found shell casings related to 2 cases in that sector in the past month or so. However, we've been looking at things that could improve safety out there, the potential of closing, like gating off the parking lots to the parks after hours and whatnot, just to see if there's uh, options available to do that that might reduce the presence of people who shouldn't be there after hours. But we've only had a couple of incidents. It's, I know sometimes these social media rumors get going, and I was being told that we had 10 or 12 incidents reported. Now, this isn't to say that there haven't been more cases where people have heard stuff going on, which kind of segues into my point here. If you hear gunshots, please call them into us and report them so we can get out there and investigate the matter. If we can find any evidence of a gunshot, shell casing, something hit, property damage, things of that nature, video, we can do a criminal investigation into that and see if we can find the parties responsible for it. Another issue that recently came to my attention is a social media driven uh, event to try to have a splatter gun war out at Northfield Mall this Sunday. For those of you who aren't familiar with splatter guns, they're popular with a lot of teens these days. They fire those Orbeez gels, I guess you would call them. So it's not a real weapon. However, this social media push by somebody was saying that they would like to get this started and go until the police show up to arrest them. And the last we checked, there were something like 2,000 likes on this post. So we're a little concerned about people showing up to cause just generalized mischief at the mall this weekend. Consequently, we are going to be upping our staffing out there. We've met with mall security. We're going to be trying to keep an eye on that. But I know a number of you in here may have teenagers in your family or no teenagers in the neighborhood. And if you happen to see one of them heading towards the mall with a Orbeez splatter gun, if you could encourage them to do something else with their evening, that would be best for all of us. We don't want to have trouble out there at the mall, but if you had heard anything about that, just know we're aware of it and we're working to make sure there's minimal disruption to the mall. Again, I want to emphasize. Sorry, go ahead.
Kevin, do you want to say what time it's scheduled, or do you specifically not want to say what time it's
No,
scheduled?
it's out on the internet. It said that they said 4 p.m. until the cops stop us, basically. So, and that's on Sunday, the 22nd. So, again, clicking like on social media doesn't necessarily mean people are showing up, but it was having enough attention that we wanted to make sure we gave it the proper amount of attention. As some of you know, we have off-duty officers that the mall hires and off-duty officers that Bass Pro hires and Harkins Theater hires. So we've coordinated with those partners and we're putting some more people in place when we normally don't have them on Sunday night and increasing the number of officers we have out there. So, hopefully nothing comes of it and a police presence will drive stuff away. But I think these things are things that can start out innocently enough among teenagers just trying to have some goofy fun. But we've also seen these things turn into events where one side gets angry at the other side and assaults occur or dangerous situations occur with other patrons or nobody else wants to be involved in this kind of stuff. The mall doesn't want it on the property. So I hesitated to bring it up tonight because it's something that hasn't happened yet, but just so we can stay on top of it, I figure it's worth mentioning because I know all of you know folks out in the community and hey, I was a teenager once, so I know how easy it can be to be roped into, hey, let's go have fun at the mall. So if we can do anything we can to prevent this, we will, just so it doesn't end up being a disruptive and or dangerous event out there. Beyond that issue, another complaint we've received recently is reckless bike riding on the Westerly Creek Trail. Some residents have reported that there are individuals out there, particularly on e-bikes, riding at very high rates of speed, passing close to people, dangerous passing, things of that nature. We're going to work on trying to create a safer environment out there, partially through an educational campaign, just to let people know to be careful out there. The trails are trail system's very nice out here in Central Park, but it's also popular and used by a lot of folks, and we don't want to have somebody get in an accident and get hurt. If you're a user of these trails and you're seeing concerning behavior, please let us know, and we'll direct Denver Park Rangers or one of our traffic guys out there to try to do some calming measures. Many of you are aware that Bike to Work Day is coming up next week, and the Denver Police Department's going to be participating in that, as we do every year. Typically, we set up a stand over in the Central Park Town Square area, over there on the green, what is it, Syracuse and 29th area, near where Northeast Transportation Connection sets up. So we'll have some information out there. We'll have bike registration available for folks who want to register the bikes as a theft prevention measure. And we'll also have a number of our officers out riding around that day. So we'll be trying to do some educational about, just safe riding on the streets and on the trails here in District 5. One thing I did want to mention for those of you who attend our other meetings, normally we have our commanders meeting on the same Thursdays that you guys have the CPUN meeting. This week, due to the holiday of Juneteenth on Thursday, we've moved our regularly scheduled commanders meeting to tomorrow night. So if any of you would like to join us, you can join us in person or virtually, but we host the meeting out at our District 5 station, and we'd love to have you there. Meeting's at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And the last thing I had on my agenda that I wanted to talk about, I know a lot of you know technician Danae Ferenz, who has been a community resource officer in District 5 for a number of years and has attended these meetings with me. Danae just promoted to detective in District 5, so she'll no longer be doing the community resource officer role, but she will be still with the district and investigating some crimes for us. She should do a great job in that role. But as such, I have technician Monique Cabrera on the line with us tonight. She is our other community resource officer out here in District 5, and she's also been doing that role for a while, but typically handled the other side of the district historically. I'm sure you guys will be seeing more of her. I just wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself real quick to the group here, if you are on and able to, Monique.
Yeah, hi. Monique Cabrera. Like the LT said, I am one of the community resource officers, and I will be around a lot more. I'm sure a lot of you have my email, and if you ever need anything, you guys can always shoot me an email. But I'm really looking forward to helping both sectors now, Sector 1 and Sector 2.
Thanks, Monique. And that's kind of the quick and dirty of things going on in Central Park right now from a police perspective. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those before you move on.
So I have a question on the e-bikes. Is there a speed limit or a power limit for riding those on park trails?
Yeah, so there are restrictions on the type of e-bike, class 1 and 2 e-bikes, I believe. I will tell you that this complaint came to me late in the day today, and I was talking among some of my peers saying we got to refresh ourselves on some of the e-bike stuff, because there's been a lot of changes in that in the last couple of years. But the classifications of e-bikes determine the power level that the e-bike is permitted to use, and also the top speed that's available. The classifications also determine whether the e-bikes are just pedal assist or throttle assist, with pedal assist being uh, much more accepted on a wide variety of trails. So between different land use cases, like say if you go out into national forests and stuff, they all have different rules. And Denver's no different on that. Unfortunately, I do need to do a little research on that. That was one of the things we were talking about today. Because we were also saying that I don't know if the speed limit, if there is a posted speed limit that's clearly defined on all of the trails out here. I know some trails are marked, 15-mile-an-hour zones and things like that, but I don't know if Westerly Creek has any signs. For those of you who are out on Westerly Creek, maybe you can speak to that, but I don't think I've ever seen any out there myself. So,
No,
Jack's got his hand raised, so you
oh,
wanna?
Jack could probably, I should have thought Jack could speak to that.
Yeah, apologies. I am traveling, so can't be there in person. The Denver park rules and regulations put a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit in all Denver parks and recreation owned land. And then the speed limit on the city street is also at 15 miles an hour in Denver. There is not a difference between type of e-bike. All e-bikes are considered bikes under the law. And then in the parks, even if I'm on my regular pedal assisted bike, I can't go faster than 15 miles an hour. Although I think I'd have to try pretty hard to go that fast, but it's all encompassing there.
Well, thanks, Jack. Yeah, like I say, I was remembering 15 miles an hour, and I know I've seen it signed some places, but I don't think it's widely signed. Sorry, swatting a mosquito here. I don't think it's widely signed, so I think that's something we can work on from an educational standpoint to get more people aware of the fact that there is a speed limit out there and an expectation of safe riding. So, like I say, something we're looking into. This just came to my attention, but we want to make sure we give it our due diligence, because we do see accidents on bikes where people are seriously injured, and certainly something we want to minimize while people are out here enjoying the parks and trails.
Any other questions? Kathy?
Question about the mailbox thefts. I know it's a USPS issue, but how is the Denver Police Department involved?
So we have been working with the Postal Inspector Service. So they came to us and asked if we could give them some assistance on their operations. I think one of the things they run into just through the nature of limited resources and federal bureaucracy is they typically only get involved in large scale investigations where they can prove, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff being stolen. But they recognize, as we do, that there are a lot of smaller scale thefts out here. So we've started to coordinate with them on finding ways that we could use state and local charges to address some of the theft complaints with their assistance when we have mailboxes broken into. So we've done a number of undercover operations with them. We have made some arrests that way, and we're looking forward to doing some more of those operations, because we certainly see a lot of thefts from mailboxes. And there's a number of ways that's done. I mean, it's everything from items being stolen out of your like a physical mailbox on a house, or packages that were delivered on a porch, to somebody using a pry bar to open up a community, one of the larger mailboxes that serves a number of residences. We've also seen cases where individuals are either stealing through theft or robbery, or forging what we call the arrow keys. The arrow keys are the keys that postal workers carry that open all the mailboxes, and it's actually a federal crime to possess one of those if you're not a postal worker. So we've seen cases where those have been forged, essentially made, copies of them. And we've seen cases, not recently, but in years past, I know of a case, at least one case in the area, where a postal worker was actually robbed for the key. Somebody came up and took the key by force. So those are ones they take pretty seriously. But as you mentioned, the theft of mail is under federal jurisdiction under the Postal Service, but we are trying to assist them because it is a crime that affects all of us. So we're doing what we can to be good partners with the Postal Service on that.
It just keeps happening though. I live in, on the south end, older area, and we have the big, large community mailboxes, and I think 3 of them were broken into this weekend. So, I mean, it's just, it just keeps happening, and I don't really know what's being done about it, if anything.
Yeah. So there's a number of technologies that they're bringing to bear to try to catch people breaking into these boxes in areas where it's happening a lot. Certainly, I think one of the problems is virtually everybody has a mailing address and receives mail everywhere. So there's a lot of places where this crime can be committed. It's not like we have one spot we can watch, and we can't be everywhere at once. But Postal Service is working to identify places where this is happening more often, and they're using some new technologies that they're bringing on to try to detect when a crime might be taking place, things to try to prevent the crime from taking place. For example, one thing I could mention is instead of the arrow keys that they're using now, they're moving to like an electronic version of that they're starting to bring online that'll make it harder for somebody, just like a chipped car key where you can't just use a regular key to get in there. But as you can imagine, there's millions of postal boxes around the country, so it's kind of an expensive and time consuming change for them. But also some, like I say, some technologies we've been using like bait packages and tamper evident notifications that we can figure out if somebody's opened a box in a way that they shouldn't have and things like that that can alert us. So some of these are, set up as like stakeout operations where we'll set up on a box and hope that we get somebody that breaks into that box that night. And a lot of times we have to pick the ones that are getting hit the most with hopes of actually having somebody break in while we're actually in the process of an operation. But we have had some success and made some arrests that way. There's also a lot of arrests that occur on the back end through investigative work that either our investigators or the postal inspectors are doing based on what happens with the items that are stolen and how we can sometimes track those electronically or through other means.
Lieutenant Hines, we need to move on to the MCA and Sanitary Library, but I'll reach out to you and Technician Cabrera. Since we don't have our July meeting, I just want to share information out that DPD might have around fireworks safety or reporting fireworks and wildfire safety. So I'll reach out offline for that information.
Will DPD have a hotline this year for reporting lighted fireworks within city limits?
Yeah.
Monique, do you know if we have a fireworks line this year?
We do.
Okay.
I can email that out to everybody. We do have flyers made already, but that will be up on our Nextdoor app as well. I can try to grab that number and put it in the meeting notes right now for y'all as well.
So much. All right, I think, Jack, are you going to be giving the MCA update?
I am indeed, and I'll piggyback a little bit off of what was being discussed before about mailboxes. Here in Central Park, the MCA physically maintains the mailboxes pursuant to our obligations under federal postal regulation. And so as those boxes are broken into, tampered with, damaged, any other mischief has occurred to them, we are working very quickly to try to get those repairs made. And essentially we are installing a new postal box product that contains that modified, what is called the modified arrow lock, which is a different type of key that is harder to counterfeit and steal. So we are moving with some pace here to get the boxes replaced. There are about 2,700 mailboxes that the MCA maintains here in the neighborhood, and at a cost of about $2,500 a piece, it is just not physically possible to replace them all. And so the ones that we are replacing at this point are the boxes that have either become broken or are subject to repeated break-ins. We do recommend, of course, that everybody report their mail theft to the Postal Service and to the police department, because they are the ones that are actually able to investigate those crimes. And then where there is damage to a specific postal box, you can report that to the MCA. We have a mailbox service request form on our website, actually a whole web page dedicated to mailboxes, where we can get at least the broken things fixed. As it relates to summer and the MCA and all the fun things that we do here in Central Park, our pools opened Memorial Day, although the rain put a little damper on our fun. But as you've seen, the last couple of days have been super hot and our pools have been super popular. You can find the most up-to-date pool schedule on our website. That's mca80238.com. Each pool's schedule is just a little bit different, and those schedules do change with not a lot of frequency, but from time to time, based on our staffing availability and also our programming needs. We have launched swim lessons, swim team, all those fun things as well. So you might see delayed openings in some facilities due to swim programming. We appreciate your patience, and there will always be at least 6 other pools that have uninterrupted hours that you can take a peek at if the particular pool you're trying to visit is closed on a particular day for that swim programming. Additionally, our summer events are in full gear. Concerts on the North Green, that's Conservatory Green, are every Thursday. That's the Moja Blue concert series that starts at 6:30, and then our summer concert series on Saturdays begins at 6 p.m. That's at Founders Green. There's a lot going on. Also, a lot of capital improvements are also underway. That includes repaving streets and replacing sidewalks and alleys. So we do apologize where there is disruption. We're trying to get everything fixed with as minimal impact as possible, but it's impossible to make large-scale repairs without some impact. We do try to mitigate that, but we appreciate your patience while our crews are out there getting things fixed that need to be fixed. As always, we are here to support the community, here to take care of everyone. So let us know if you need anything.
Jack, can you say a bit more about when the MCA replaces sidewalks? Because I thought that was a resident responsibility.
Well, see, places sidewalks that
Sorry, Jack, you're breaking up.
How about now? Can you hear now?
Yes.
All right.
not.
So the MCA replaces sidewalks are in parks and open space. Those are the sidewalks we'll replace. The MCA replaces all alleys and limited streets. But where a sidewalk is in front of a residential dwelling, the abutting resident is responsible for the replacement of that sidewalk.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, Daria, from Sam Gary Library, let's get your update.
Hi, hello everyone. So I don't have a lot, but here's some things. The Summer of Adventure is indeed happening, so please stop on by, register your children. It's for kids of all ages. It's 0 through 18, all abilities. It's something that just rewards them for reading, making, exploring, all things that you guys already do during the summer, but you will also get some prizes for that. We're also hosting Kids Create, Twins Create, and Teens Create programs. The Kids Create is every Monday, and the other 2 alternate every Wednesday. They all start at 3:30 in our community room. That's happening, now through the end of July. There's plenty to do, so bring your kiddos by or have them walk over. The library will be closed all day on Thursday, June 19th. That would be an observation of Juneteenth, and also Friday, July 4th, an observation of Independence Day. And then a couple other programs I want you to know about. There's going to be a trans and non-binary one-on-one presentation with Charlie Ocean. That's taking place on Saturday, this Saturday. the 21st at 2 o'clock. It's a really fantastic way to just broaden your horizons, like understand this topic in a safe and supportive environment, ask all your questions. And that one is for grown-ups only. And we will also have a tween book club that's going to meet on Tuesday, June 24th at 4 o'clock. You do need to register your child, but you get a free copy of the book to go with the registration. So if you register now, you can pick it up now and you guys can read it before the meeting happens on Tuesday. Right, that is all I have. Is there any questions?
Just what book is it for the book club?
That one is Lion Dancers by, let me tell you, book is Lion Dancers by Kai C. Putting that in the chat. There you go.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great, thank you to all of our community partners then for your updates. I think we have a few minutes before we go into the kind of board hour, which obviously everyone, even if you're not a board member, is welcome to stay. But I wanted to do just some quick report outs because we had the INC documentary screening that some board members volunteered at. So I was actually ill last Thursday and couldn't go to the event. So if folks who were able to attend or who volunteered want to just kind of give a brief summary of the event and any takeaways.
I think it was just David and I. Carol, I think your son volunteered, but
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend either, and I sent my son in my stead to help set up, but he didn't stay, but my husband went to the film, so I got a report back about that, but I just wanted you to share what your, I don't know, what your reactions were and how the community responded, and I was really sorry to miss the talk back. I don't know how that went, but I was very interested in that.
yeah, it was a great event. I think almost every seat was filled. They had like food and bar.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Join or Die was the name of the movie.
Oh, yeah, Join or Die. So it was great. The film was really good. People were really engaged. We didn't actually get a stay for the discussion at the end. But I think David did.
Yeah, I did. So it was with three folks. Someone from Warm Cookies of the Revolution, then two other folks that I don't were from. Oh, actually four, and then the movie, the director of the film, and it was great. Like the whole premise of the film was around like joining a club or organization, and it was based on the book Bowling Alone, and a piece kind of related to health and safety that I thought was really interesting in the film said like if you want to do like a 10% reduction of crime, like you don't necessarily need to fund more police, you need to fund neighborhood organization programs to meet your neighbors, because that actually like helps reduce crime. And so and so like there's also like research around like you're gonna die earlier if you don't like have friends or part of like an organization or a community, be part of a community. So
It was very cool.
yeah, it really was.
Still on Netflix?
Yeah, it's all about social capital.
And there's books too about the topic but it definitely made us sort of motivated of like, all right, what else can we do? We need to have more social gatherings too, in addition to like this formal organization, just kind of connect more and.
I thought in the film, there's a reminder of all of these institutions that we've had for decades in this country. And, you know, I mean, I sort of think about like my parents with Kiwanis Club and that sort of thing, but some of these, they've been around for a long time, people are active. Yeah. It's a way to provide, you know, various needs in your community and beyond. I mean, it's really all very positive. That's kind of what I walked away with, and I just know that from being involved, and you too, how important that is, how good it is for the community, but your own soul as well. So I appreciated the INC taking this step. I thought it was particularly timely to be doing something like this, to gather the Denver community and the folks who are board members for the INC, that's Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, which is the umbrella organization for RNOs.
So we
Just really did a splendid job and they were very committed and I thank you too for being there.
Next step that they brought up at the showing was the next event, the mile long table. And I just
yes.
about that. And the INC is sponsoring, I think 25% of the fee, but for RNOs, if we pay $75, we can get 10 tickets to this event that's happening at the Auraria campus that they're doing like basically a mile. The table won't be a mile long, but it's 5,280 community people coming together, having lunch, sitting with, people throughout the city. So, INC is partly sponsoring a fee where we can get tickets to us to go, and you can also buy tickets as an individual, like you can buy a group of tickets. But it just sounded like another really cool next event to do.
It's on Saturday, July 26th.
Yes.
From 10 to 11. Yes, you're right. I was like it's if an RNO wants to sponsor $75, INC is gonna come. That's fun. I also just got an individual ticket just because I want to, and like even with the fees, it's like $6.
Yeah, it's really affordable.
Very, very affordable. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
I'm curious just as far as like, because you and Carol, like David and Carol are our delegates for the INC. Is this part of what they discuss at meetings? Or I guess like who plans these events?
No.
Like, that's not the impression I got. So I'm just kind of wondering, is there a committee or a working group that is specifically focusing on this engagement?
I think there's a shift with the INC because I don't know how many years I've been on this board, maybe 6 or something like that. But when I first started going to meetings, no, I mean, it's not that there weren't helpful things and you'd have Dottie show up and you'd have various, city entities come and report about whatever. But for me, sometime last year, there was a shift and I think the board and I think their board president initiated that in terms of building community and doing it in very social friendly ways. So it wasn't just let's show up at a meeting and tell people, there's a budget of something, or the transportation committee reports out or what have you. I think there is this, and I think this is my assumption, so take it for what it's worth, that it's politically motivated in a very positive way. It's a reaction.
I was trying to share the link in the chat.
I think you need to mute
I think I do
yourself.
too.
So I think there is a shift with the INC about how do we build community in Denver? And how do maybe we support RNOs doing the same thing in their own communities?
Would you, I sound right. I was like, my perspective is pretty limited because I've only been going for like the last 6 months, 5, 6
Yeah,
months.
but you
or so,
pay
but-
attention.
Well, yeah,
There.
but it does. It feels like they're very engaged and like they're planning on last year, before I was the delegate, they had like a voter issue forum where like they had 5 kind of hot button issues that were on the ballot where they had people present like for and against arguments. And I think that they're planning on doing that again this year. And so like, yeah.
I want to put a plug in for, they're doing the second year of RNO 101 in September. And I highly recommend that every board member do that. I will get more details, but I'm just giving you the heads up that it is in September. Well, a lot of people, when we talked to folks who potentially wanted to be board members, they didn't know what they are. They thought we were part of the MCA, and they still do, the community. But so what is a registered name organization? What is the INC? Yes.
They're also putting on a, yeah, I was like, yeah, just to remember, yeah, I was like, they're also on July 17th. The INC on July 17th is also doing a, for this, the potential Santa Fe Yards Women's Soccer League Stadium project, a town hall collaborative. I don't have the time written down, but they're gonna have a forum about that too, just around like the neighborhood and how that might impact.
Like.
Yes,
we'll have to
I will
look at
provide
the
that
calendar-
information.
Calendar of events and make sure that we have that, like, those kinds of things scheduled.
Yeah.
I have, well, it's now 7:31. I do have one report out. It's just an update, a quick update on with the shops at Northfield folks, because I think that the public hearing and vote on their rezoning application is next Monday night during the city council meeting. And so I just checked in with Nathan from CRL about that, and he let me know. So we all saw the MCA and Jack's letter about the, like, that in opposition to the rezoning because they're not part of the MCA and paying into the assessments that all of us pay into. So I asked Nathan about that. He said that they're currently negotiating it. They're going to be, the community delegate meeting for the MCA is tomorrow at noontime. I'm happy to share out the link. I think that it's both in person here, like literally where we're sitting, and over Zoom. If folks want to tune in, you're welcome to. But I think that he sounded optimistic that they can kind of get to a place of agreement on, to what extent they either will or will not be part of the MCA. And I know that's an issue that Matt had brought up also. Anyway, so I will be kind of following what the discussion is at the MCA meeting tomorrow. And just let people know, kind of what the takeaways from that are. And then again, I'll share out all of the information that we currently have as a board. We're not going to be taking a position. I think we don't have a good process for, and it's also, I think that is something that I would like to have over the next year, is for us to be able to engage and actually be involved in those conversations more actively. But I would say if folks do feel that they want to testify in support or in opposition, as individuals, everybody is welcome to. And I just really want to make sure everybody has all of the information around the rezoning and can get questions answered about how that process works.
A follow-up question, and maybe it's for Jack. Is the MCA then going to voice that same objection for the apartments that are going into the RK Mechanical property? Because they also declared that they did not want to be part of the MCA and to pay community dues.
Well, there's no rezoning needed for RK.
Yeah, Amanda, RK is already fully entitled, so they have a use by right there. The RK parcel, the RK property is actually 3 separate parcels. 2 of the 3 of those parcels are included in the MCA. The third parcel is not. So our conversations with that new developer there have been around how we bring the third parcel included in the community, their position. Well, they just haven't returned my calls. So though I don't know if I want to use the word negotiation, but a dialogue is being attempted. What makes the shops at Northfield different is that the rezoning is before city council, and so that is where our position has come from.
Thank you.
And will you be updating, I guess, basically on whatever the outcome is of the discussion at the delegate meeting, Jack? If the position of the MCA changes, is that something that comes from the, I guess, is that something that comes from the board, or is that something that would come from the delegates at tomorrow's meeting?
So this decision is the board's decision to make. The next opportunity the board will meet to conduct business is July 16th. So we definitely acknowledge and understand that their hearing is on Monday. We will happily have conversation at the delegate forum tomorrow. We think that conversation will be beneficial. We hope to walk away from that conversation with an agreement in principle, but no final action will be taken until our board meets in July. And at that point, we will, well, assuming we reach an agreement and that agreement is adopted by the board, we would communicate that with the city at that time.
And just to clarify, and then I know we need to move on, but I just to clarify for us, when the letter of opposition was sent out, was that something that had been voted on by the MCA board before it was sent out, or was that an operational decision, kind of on the operations side of the MCA?
At our May board meeting, the board did discuss the matter of the rezoning and particularly our position as it relates thereto. And it was the board's direction at that point to take a position of opposition.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I will say though, and I want to make sure that I characterize our discussions appropriately. We have had very thoughtful, very constructive, and very effective conversations between the MCA and our friends at Stockdale. It is, we think we will have an agreement in principle after our meeting tomorrow. It will just take, our board will just then need to adopt that, and their earliest opportunity to do that is in July.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think that we're now a couple of minutes over into this. If folks want to just kind of get up and stretch, I do want to move into the next agenda just so that we can stay on time for tonight, because I do think we have a lot of material now that we're going to be talking about the committees. But so yeah, everybody get up and stretch, but I'll continue on with the agenda. All right, anyway, thanks for being here. So, all right, first slide here is the treasurer's report. Brian, I believe you're on.
I am. Sorry, I was sorry I was late. I, like Jack, am also traveling, and my dinner went a little late. So treasurer's report. The number that you see for our current reserve of almost $12,000 does not include the proceeds from the mini golf tournament. CPBA has been a little late in remitting the difference, so splitting their amounts. I got an email from Enrique today, said that the check is in the mail. So we are in good shape. This will be kind of the last report of what would be our normal board year. And so the only new expenses were a few expenses for the website. So our normal MailChimp expenses, but then the other news, and I had sent this out to the board, we did get the annual $3,000 from the MCA. So that also will help us through the next year of operating expenses, specifically around the website. So if anybody has any questions, that's kind of the update. We're actually in pretty good shape as we start the new board year.
To kind of contextualize some of this as we kind of start moving into talking about committees, part of having the treasurer's report is, so each committee gets an allotment now of $150 for the committee's use that doesn't, we get a heads up as a board on how it will be used, but it doesn't require a board vote, up to $150 per committee. And then beyond that, if there are any kind of events that a committee or that we want to do as a board, any other kind of budget, we'll have budget proposals, and then we'll vote on any sort of budget amounts as a board. So just, I would like people, because at the moment we're in good shape, but part of it is because we never really actually spend or host many things, and I'd like folks to kind of be thinking about if we want to move away from just having kind of meetings for the sake of having meetings, what do events or what does kind of community engagement look like? And that, and to think that, you know, we do have some budget that can be put towards that. So I just want to encourage folks to have that in mind as committees kind of regroup, and start planning for the next board year.
And Liz, besides the website, which is running us about $2,000 a year between the MailChimp and some of the other licenses that we have, we also have organizational liability insurance, and that bill will be due in September, and that's about $780. I haven't got the official quote from the carrier, but we carry that liability insurance for both the directors and officers and any events that we have. So a lot of times, if you're hosting events in city parks or any city building, you have to have a certificate of insurance, and we do carry that insurance. So just, you know, when we have had the last couple of mini golf tournaments at Flight Code, they don't require a certificate of insurance because obviously they have their own insurance and that is part of what they cover. But if we were going to do a event in a park or something like that, the city, in order to pull a permit, requires certificate of insurance. So just for the board members, you just have to reach out to me. We do need probably 10 days to 2 weeks notice so we can get a certificate of insurance, but that is something that we have.
Actually, that's good to know. I have, kind of in the, I suppose for new board members, I'll orient you. We do have a Google Drive, with resources, CPUN resources and information. And among that actually is an event planning checklist that I put together for events. And I actually don't have the certificate of insurance, like as part of that checklist. So I'll add that. So thanks for bringing that up, Brian.
Does the survey fall under the comms and outreach
Generally,
budget,
yeah.
or is it a separate?
Yeah, it's comms and outreach. But if we get any software for if we, you know, are getting a Survey Monkey, that's a separate budget expenditure. That's out of, like, kind of outside of the committee. But the Amazon gift cards that were given to two of the folks who filled out the community survey, that came out of the committee money.
Good to know. All right, thank you.
Okay, so this is for a refresher for everybody. I'll try to do this quickly, and apparently if there is an event that the INC is hosting in September, we can, I'll let them talk about it. But I just wanted to have a quick RNOs 101, what are registered neighborhood organizations? And so RNOs were established in 1979 by a city ordinance. And so I'll share the slide deck with folks, but you can look at it. It's Denver Revised Municipal Code, Chapter 12, Article 3. The intent was to increase access to the various agencies and departments of the city for neighborhood organizations. It's to improve the flow of information between neighborhood groups and the city. And then so it was solving for that problem, kind of pre-email, kind of easy mass communications. There was a problem the city had of getting public notices out to neighborhoods. And so part of it was on the city side, the RNOs kind of solved part of that issue. And then it was also to enable neighborhood organizations to have communication with the city, especially around kind of land use decisions, so rezonings. And excise and licenses, what sort of businesses are coming into neighborhoods. And so it's very easy to become an RNO. You just have to register with the Community Planning and Development office in this department in the city to be officially recognized by the city. There's some very minimal requirements. You have to have some points of contact. You have to, I think, hold at least one meeting, one public meeting a year. And beyond that, kind of the sky's the limit on how RNO wants to organize itself. And we do, I think now, for everybody who's on the CPUN Google list, you're getting all of the emails that Brian gets from the city then are going out to us. And then generally, since it's generally a fire hose of information, I have tried to just pick and choose what are kind of important notifications, like the rezoning at the shops at Northfield, like to include in our email newsletters. So, but we can talk about that. And so I think something that is important for us as CPUN to know about ourselves, but also for us to be able to communicate out to the community. We're a registered neighborhood organization. We are not a property owners association or a homeowners association. So the MCA or Master Community Association is our property owners association, and then there's a number of sub HOAs. You know, if you live on a courtyard or if you're in some other configuration, there's also the sub HOAs. We're not a business association, that's Central Park Business Association. And they represent and advocate for all the small business owners, both in Central Park itself, but also kind of the parts of East Colfax and Northwest Aurora that abut the Central Park community. And we're not a metro district. I think was that our March meeting? Was the Metro Districts 101. If folks have questions about that, I'm happy to share the slide deck and video. But kind of general bullet points, Metro Districts are a special taxing district to fund and build critical infrastructure in the community. Our property tax bills for folks who are property owners in the neighborhood show how many mills or how much of your property taxes go toward the Metro District. And here we have two. There's the Park Creek Metro District and the Westerly Creek Metro Districts. Okay, really quickly on the INC, which we were talking about, it's an organization that was founded in 1975. So before the actual RNO ordinance was passed. And it was part of the national neighborhood movement of the 1970s. That was formed to revive and conserve older neighborhoods and to demand the right to participation in decisions affecting neighborhoods with both public and private sector institutions. So you have kind of urban redevelopment happening in the late 60s and early 70s. And this was a movement of folks in the neighborhoods to have a say in how land use decisions were being made and how things were being developed around them. Kind of classic, I think in Denver, Larimer Square and the preservation of that block on Larimer Square is an example of kind of advocacy for historic preservation over just kind of bulldozing it for another service parking lot. So that's kind of where the movement, of what the movement was aimed at. The INC is membership based. We pay $40 a year. So we have two delegates, Carol and David, but if anybody else is interested in seeing what the INC does or what their meetings are like, it's the second Saturday of each month from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. It's over Zoom. Right?
Yes. Well, they do in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hybrid. And yeah, so we have the RNOs. I think that just kind of going back to our conversation about it, I am like so curious because I always look at the INC agenda and think I'm not interested in anything on this. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, and I'm in too many meetings already, so I never join. But if there was, like, I think like if you guys can find out who does the planning for the events or who is having that conversation about the citywide events that they're starting to host, how they're thinking about community building, I'd like to be talking to that person or group of people at the INC, because I think that's a really good direction, and I think that's something that we're trying to figure out within our own community. So
You and I can talk, David, about how to do
okay. Okay, our neighboring RNOs are East Colfax Neighborhood Association, Northeast Park Hill Coalition, Montbello 2020, and Greater Park Hill Community. During our last October, we actually did the first joint meeting of Northeast Denver RNOs. And I think that that's something that we want to keep doing, is fostering connections not just within our neighborhood, but also with neighborhoods that are around us. And so actually, as a result of the joint meeting last October, the City Council District 8 office has been convening quarterly meetings of the basically board presidents with the District 8 team. And so something I realized is that I have become a little bit of a bottleneck for the information because I've gone to those lunches. I hear interesting things that are happening in the communities and then I have not shared them out. So, that's bad on me. And so we're kind of through the DEI committee working on better channels of communication about what is happening and how we can become kind of sources of mutual support for, within Central Park and with our neighbors. And so something that also is a nice kind of outcome of the joint meeting is that the District 8 office is actually going to work on hosting and organizing the joint meeting for RNOs this year, which it was a financial lift to do that for all of our RNOs. So it will be very helpful so that is upcoming. That'll probably be our November with at least in part with other RNOs. So there is a North, yeah, it's called Nano. It's like the North Aurora neighborhood organization. We have not really, I mean, I think that is a gap in, who we're connecting with, and just in general, making sure that we're including information for North residents who live in Central Park.
I know there's a very small part of Central Park.
Yeah,
that's
it's like
important,
100
right?
houses.
Yeah.
So we have when I see things that are specifically for Ward 1, which is the city council district, they do wards in Aurora. When I see information that comes through that's either in Ward 1 or is for the elected members in Ward 1 when they're having town halls, I usually share that information in our emails, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement in our engagement with just, Stanley feels like a part of the neighborhood, but it's not a part of the neighborhood. So I think that actually just having a more explicit set of connections with what is happening around there, both development wise and just city wise, can be helpful.
Hey, Liz, we are considered a registered neighborhood organization for Aurora, and we are on their distribution. So when I get there are two things that happen. We get the Aurora newsletter, which I do send to the board when we get it. We also get development updates from them. And when they pertain to anything that's within the Central Park development or generally adjacent to it, like Stanley, I do forward those on. Unfortunately, a lot of those come, I should say, unfortunately for me, because I always have to go to the post office and pick them up because they come registered. A lot of them are snail mail. But when it does pertain, I do scan it and send it to the board. So we do get that information. There's just not a lot other than some of the stuff that's being developed around Fitzsimmons that's been relevant to us. They're doing we get a lot of the, they're replacing sewers and things like that. So they're closing streets, but most of it doesn't pertain to anything around our development.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's good to know because I have I've seen some of that come through and I pay attention to the newsletter, but didn't know if we were getting any other notices from Aurora city government. Okay, moving on, the RNO ordinance update, we got an email that came through, Councilwoman Gonzalez Gutierrez and Councilman Cashman are working on updates to the RNO ordinance. I don't know what that ampersand meant. Anyway, so they currently have a survey out, and I do think that it would be good for all CPUN board members to fill out. It's actually a survey that's for anybody. I think you don't actually have to be a member or involved in your RNO. I think they're interested in that information also, just in terms of who is not kind of getting captured by RNOs. But I do think if you're involved in our RNO, I would encourage you to fill out the survey and then just kind of see what they're doing with it. I feel like the RNO ordinance update, it hasn't been updated since the 1979. And we've had a lot of changes in communication over that time. So I'm curious to see what's on the table for that. Okay. Moving into committees, as most of us know, our committees are Safe Streets, Education, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Health and Safety, Sustainability, and then there's comms, outreach, and fundraising, kind of all are lumped together. We can talk about how we want to organize that. And then there's also generally board recruitment is like a temporary committee that kind of the ad hoc committee that forms kind of every January and then dissolves very nicely in April, and kind of around mid-April when we have to do the noticing for the board slate. Again, each committee has $150 budgeted without need for board approval. We just kind of need a heads up on how it's being used. And so for folks, only comms for the Amazon gift cards and the education committee for the kind of our contribution to the INC documentary screening are that's the only committee money that has been spent this year. So there, it is a resource that's available in addition to kind of thinking about how to have kind of either larger events. So Eric, do you want to talk about Safe Streets and Amy's?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a co-chair with Amy Campbell and she cannot participate tonight. And she put this together so that just gives you the practical information about every meeting every other month and on Zoom. Heather and Matt have been very active in Safe Streets recently, and this is this is a continuing story in terms of what's going on, and there's overlap with the education committee as well on a traffic safety issue that is involves Northfield High School and Willow Elementary and the campus Inspire and Denver Green School Occupy in terms of and the Park Creek Metro District got involved. Dottie is involved. DPS, interestingly, is not that involved. And who else is involved with this? We have a lot of players with this. I'm going to make a flow chart. Really, I did because it would be helpful. It would be helpful for me. But Amy has been very instrumental in this, and we've attended numerous meetings, and Heather has, and her student is with us, a student at Willow, affected, and that's been very active too. And I appreciate your help, and you probably could say more about this than I, but we want to do an update in August as to what's going on. And it has to do with safety. And at Northfield, it's about 56th and students crossing in the middle of 56th. It's terrifying when you look at the video. And a delegate, an MCA delegate, sort of started the ball rolling, at least with Northfield, and took video of students crossing in the middle of 56th. The crosswalk is barely there. So there have been some very specific asks around how to mitigate the problem. And Matt, do you want to add anything to this?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think Red Creek will provide some funding for the Inspire campus if that can get approved by the city. So that's one thing that we're hoping to get some movement on. But we're really counting on Dottie to put that hot crosswalk in on 56th Avenue by the Sandoval campus, and then kind of improved signage and painting on the roads around all three campuses for parking and pick up and drop off areas and things like that.
And I think part of this effort has, getting Dottie more involved, bringing in the executive director, Amy Ford, I think has sort of gotten some like side lane things moving a little bit where we're finally getting more clear information, from the district 8 office about what are these tickets that are in for these crosswalks. We're actually getting more information now. And we got Safe Routes to School to reach out to the Willow campus, which has been on the sort of priority list since 2021 to have the safe routes to school evaluation. They finally reached out to the principal like 2 weeks before the end of school. So I was able to sit on a hopefully constructive call with her, and they're gonna do a traffic safety study all we coordinated in conjunction with all the other moving pieces. Something positive will come out of it.
And I'll just note that the Park Creek District is acutely aware of the safety concerns around, well, all three schools really. To the extent that they are able to support, they have signaled interest in supporting, and particularly with some of the low-hanging issues, the roads around the Inspire campus are owned by the district. There are all of the roads around the Willow Elementary School campus have been conveyed to the city. We closed on that transaction on May 6th, so last month. And then most of the roads around Northfield have also been conveyed to the city, with the exception of the roads there on the west side of Central Park Boulevard that we are still in progress on. So, I think part of the holdup with Dottie has been they're playing this game where they say, we don't know the road, we can't do anything, to which I said, I'm happy to make you the owner of the road, tell me where you want me to sign. That said, where the Park Creek has also been very constructive in that they want to support where they can. It's just a matter of getting on the same page with the city. But unfortunately, the city is just a really hard place to get things done and moves at a glacial pace. So we are waiting to hear back.
Sure, if I can bring up one other thing related to safe streets is the Smith Road between Xenia and Havana is currently not finished, and I think there have been plans off and on to do that. And I think there's kind of a plan in the works to do it. So that's, east of the train station. There's a bridge over Sand Creek, which is out of commission. It's blocked off. It's even difficult for bikes, especially I bike over there sometimes, and there's no easy way to get onto the bridge. I asked the MCA, Jack, to see about narrowing the gate so that you could ride a bike onto the bridge, and I think they were going to do that, but then the city said, no, we don't want people using that bridge. And so, but the main issue to me is, I think that what I've heard is that the city wants to put a 4-lane road along that stretch, which is only about 1.5 miles long. And to me, that just seems like it would only encourage people to, see how fast they can go along there. So I would like to advocate, and I'm trying to work through channels to have a 2-lane road there. And then, the main cost driver is the bridge, because it's in the floodplain, of course, and that the bridge that's there right now would have to be replaced. And so that's the main cost driver of doing the improvements, and I think from the city standpoint has been the main obstacle. So that's going to be a Park Creek City project to do, but we also want to make sure that the bridge is very bike and pedestrian friendly so that folks leaving the train station can easily access the Sand Creek Trail, which lies below. And again, that it's a safe corridor for people to commute on, as well as access trails and, get around the neighborhood more effectively. So hopefully in the next few years, we will see construction and finishing that Smith Road section, but that's still kind of tentative at this point.
Is there so I know that in Denver, sometimes when there's new development, the developer is responsible for the street in front of their property. Again, with the RK Mechanical, is there any way to say that they have to fund part of that bridge because
I
they're
don't-
going to be pulling so many more vehicles into that corridor?
I don't know. I
No,
think that
that is not a thing that can occur.
Okay, thanks.
it's near there, but I don't think it's technically on that
Yeah.
intersection. So
Nice try though.
And just
Any other comments?
Weren't there supposed to be pedestrian bridges over 56th at some point from the high school?
No,
No. Is that just a rumor? Okay.
It's just a dream or.
It's a very
It'd be
bad.
an amazing
To consider, I mean, people were saying, why couldn't we do that? I can't begin to imagine what that would cost.
So
It would cost about $20 million. And the city has determined that it is redundant since there is an existing underpass that travels under 56th directly to the east.
yes. Well, yeah. But it does prevent the kids going to the Panda Express and
That's what the
Taco
hot
Bell.
crosswalk is supposed to.
I'm sorry.
There is supposed to be a hot crosswalk put in at Beeler and 56, so a little east of Central Park, for pedestrians, for students specifically, to have more safe access to that shopping center across the street. But there will not be an overpass, no.
Not a flashing pedestrian.
Yes, you press the button and it,
City activated crosswalk. An example of it is at East Bridge. So it's a crosswalk that doesn't occur with a crossing road.
East Bridge?
Also with, well, it's what we want there.
There are two.
There's one that goes over to Fred Thomas Park,
That's
for
true.
example.
Yeah,
The
I
East
was
Bridge
thinking of
town,
that one.
East Bridge.
Yeah.
Over.
Oh,
One on,
Yeah.
on either side.
And there's one on,
There's one on Northfield,
yeah.
by the, close to that.
Part of the problem with 56 though is that it's a school zone and it only takes you down to 40 miles per hour, which is absurd. And to put a I mean, they're gonna have to take the speed limit down to put that kind of a
That's a-
crosswalk.
Yeah, I'm curious about how other neighborhoods, so I know, you have the exact same issue around Bruce Randolph, in kind of the GES area because you have semi trucks coming off of I-70. And it only goes down to 40 and you've got an elementary school and then you have the middle school and high school there. So I think that it actually is really interesting to see, kind of common points, kind of common pain points throughout the city. And just see, yeah, if there are any opportunities for like,
Commercial center though,
what?
do they have I think that the biggest issue for ours, we've got high school
Commercial, yeah.
with food options and hangout spots directly across. So that's the biggest thing. Cause if they were just walking home, I don't think they'd be running across 56. It's that they're trying to get to the Panda Express.
They're running across.
You know? I mean, I
Parents actually
brought it up.
let kids get out of their cars in the middle of 56th. I am not kidding at that light. There are simple things like reducing the speed limit, not allowing people to do a U-turn at that light, not being able to take a right on red. Why are we taking rights on red in the middle of a school? Like, that's crazy. So there's like some simple things that don't involve a $20 million pedestrian bridge that seem low cost, low hanging fruit, whatever, that would help, like, and just putting a police officer out there, I think, to say things to stop parents from letting their kids out of their cars at drop off in the middle of 56. That happens all the time.
So.
Car doors open, kids come out, they weave through the cars, they stand on the median in between a highway. We've already had 2 children hit there. Not last year, but I think the year before. There were 2 there were 2 DSST students. So we have 2 schools on that campus, right? And there were 2 kids at DSST, a brother and a sister, hit and not unfortunately killed, but really injured.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna take at one of our schools. It's
I
gonna
brought it up.
take
We
being
have 3
killed.
kids there. Well, one just graduated, but
It's terrible.
the Sandoval campus, I don't know, but a fence along the northern perimeter so that the kids would have to walk all the way down
Yeah.
to the corner, and then they're there. They're not gonna go around the fence and walk all the way down the middle of 56. They're there. That would force them to go.
There has to be a
across.
way to.
I just don't understand why that's not the simplest thing to do. Doesn't,
our August meeting, right?
Yes, sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
No,
It's on to those.
I was gonna say, like, and it'll also be timely because we'll all be going back
To school. Back to school.
back to school.
That makes
So
it
I
easier
think
if somebody
like
gets-
hold those thoughts and bring that to the
Oh, write
August
'em
meeting.
down,
I think
yeah.
that we need to, do some strategic thinking, around that. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that
Great.
Safe Streets Committee can present on that. I think just one really quick thing before we move on is that the interns in the district aid office are actually going to be inputting. That's one of their projects. We'll be taking the 500 plus comments that were made on the community survey, and they're going to be inputting them into the city's 311 system so that they're documented in a city, like, kind of a format that the city sees, and then kind of,
I'm gonna ask them to sort of code it and then
Yeah.
condense it into like what are actionable
yeah.
things to submit. And we can see what their bandwidth is, maybe give them all of the other open-ended responses. I mean, cause there were some things in there.
Yeah.
They trained in like qualitative methods.
No, but it's just, one of the things Peggy Thompson, I believe, had told Amy was that all of these tickets are just in sort of like a system in an order. And that's it. And so if we can like take all these comments that were put in, if there's any common things that keep coming up, submit tickets that they're an issue so that there's just some sort of record.
We're gonna look at them first and sort of put them together. So if there's comments on a central theme that they're not gonna put in 300 comments. They're gonna, I think, aggregate them.
Yeah.
into-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the intent.
Yeah, it's.
Yes.
Question, kind of related, maybe this is an August meeting, but is the parking situation for students parking at Northfield, is that consider, because I've seen maybe the Metro District, maybe the MCA, maybe it's.
Understanding on the parking is their Sandoval campus is looking at the building and there'll be additional parking.
Okay.
I thought that they were taking away parking to build the.
August.
Check.
Yeah, I think that's an August thing, because it's now 8:12 and we have like 5 more committees.
Neighbors in Wicker Park were like contacting the Park Creek Metro District directly.
I saw in my neighborhood,
Yeah. But that didn't go through even here, so I don't.
We learned that there's very little communication between DPS and Dottie.
So yeah, I think like this will all come out. I think that was why I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
August. So take a breather. What?
Us.
Safe Streets Committee. Okay.
Oh,
That's
August,
deep.
this August
This, yeah,
dedicated to the safe.
Yes.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
okay. Amazing.
okay. And we'll kind of move through goals and needs, increase education activism efforts in the community. And then I guess there are openings on the mayor's bicycle or pedestrian advisory committees and Naughty Advisory Board. So Carol, if there's any information, if folks want to further about something for that. Our next
I'm
email.
interested in that.
Yeah, our next email goes out on Monday. So, all right, Education Committee, you're gonna have to talk again.
Yeah, we went to even months, every other month, second Wednesday, we changed from Tuesday via Zoom. You can see the mission purpose, which I think needs to be revised. I see at the Education Committee as like what's happened with Safe Streets, there's a lot of overlap. There's ways that the Education Committee can support, take actions, whatever, with any committee with this RNO, I believe. Because I have a bigger sort of thinking about what education is beyond being in schools. And that's certainly important, but there's just other ways that, and we've done that before. We've had events to educate the community about various things and speakers, and I think we can still be doing those things, and it's a good idea. The upcoming, as you probably all know, there is going to be a school board election coming up, and the incumbent is, well, she's the incumbent. She's running again, Michelle Quattlebaum, But she's going to have challengers. There are two that I am aware of, at this point that could have changed today. I don't know, but right now there are three people running in this office. And, we want to have a forum. We did this the last time and we had quite a good turnout. And, it would be here at the MCA. I'm waiting to hear from Lawrence, who runs the calendar here. I've contacted Diane Dieter, but Lawrence is the person that I'll be chatting with as to a date, September for this. And of course, contacting the candidates as soon as we have a date, to see if they want to participate. So we'll keep abreast of that if anybody else comes into the party and see how that plays. But we, Matt, and a couple of other people joined, the meeting this past week, or whatever it was, the last meeting. And we talked about all the different elements in planning the forum. So I will share that with other people. In terms of just organizing and certainly having relevant and sound and important questions as well. So we'll get that to you.
And I think you'll.
Oh, we always, yeah.
All a working group to like help plan that.
Absolutely. Well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jackson.
Maya Jackson.
And will we do at-large as well?
Sorry?
Would there be the at-large too?
It's the at-large candidate.
Yeah, there is. And so well, Amanda and I planned it the last time, so I checked you. Reminded about it. So, okay.
We're gonna try to prepare the questions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that's right.
I think I had a sign that was like, stop talking or something.
3 minutes left.
So.
They were
yeah.
great. They were great.
Yeah, we do like young children in our meetings and like kid volunteers are always good.
Have candidates look at their.
Yeah, so I'll share these out, the slide deck out with folks too, so that we can go over these. I just do want to move into, so the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee. We kind of, I think we have a flat hierarchy. There's no committee chair. I think, but it's more that the folks who are on the committee are really committed to kind of talking through and discussing and working on DEI issues in the community. And so I feel like it's a committee that changes shape depending on what we're working, like who's taking the lead on a project. So the book club will talk about that we had last year, and then kind of what upcoming projects. But I don't know if Mandel is on. Mandel has been a past committee chair on it. And then we kind of just moved to whoever wants to be involved. We'll figure out decision making that way. But Mandel, are you online? Still? Oh, he is.
I am online.
I don't know if you
Can
wanted
you
to
hear me?
offer. Yes, yeah. Would you like to offer any thoughts on kind of past successes and events for the DEI committee and what we discussed at the last DEI committee meeting?
Yeah, so real briefly, I'll just say that what I had realized that I was extremely tasked with some other stuff that I have going on with business and work and other commitments. And so I didn't feel like I was doing an adequate job as the chair. And so we kind of talked amongst ourselves and came up with what you just described there. Some of the things that we've done over the past is come up with some community events to where we felt like we could host events for the community for people to come and get educated about different things and participate. We had a day of reflection that we had a couple years, and we had some guest panelists come that we held at the library, the Sam Gary Library. And so really it's kind of like what we thought, or what Liz express there what we not just thought the community wanted, but some of the things that were expressed through the surveys that we put out that we felt that might better serve the community. We did have the book reading, basically a book club that we had, and we then got together and discussed that. So those are just some of the things, kind of broad. I didn't really go into too much detail there, but those are some of the things that we've done in the past. And we really want to use these surveys to kind of guide where things are going, especially now that diversity, equity, and inclusion is kind of threatened across the nation. We just want to see where we might focus our attention. One of the things that has been important is to make sure that we're getting information out to the parts of the community that are occupied by renters and some of the, I would say, the apartment complexes and those sorts of places, because we're not getting very much participation from that portion of the community. And so we want to make sure that we are targeting them and letting them know that we are here as a resource for them. So yeah, I probably left out some other stuff. If somebody else could fill in the blanks there that I left out, but that's what I have for you this evening.
We have, I think that from the last meeting, if we want to just focus on the upcoming projects and events on this slide deck, I mean, it's fairly simple. It's, I think working with outreach or whatever the comms and outreach committee looks like to connect with neighbors within community. I think that part of the survey feedback around people being interested in a directory or interested in block parties or kind of we've always talked about the block captain structure. I think that is just making sure that, you know, folks do feel welcomed and included. So that's kind of an internal focusing within the community. And then another focus of the committee is working with neighboring RNOs on mutual support. So that started with just asking, like, I sent out an email. So what do you guys need? Like, what do you have coming up in your neighborhoods and what sort of things do you need? And East Colfax actually had an international market last week. They have another one in July and one in August. So it's a neighborhood event that is good for, you know, folks to support, but they also have volunteer needs. They have the East Colfax Community Collective actually does a lot of outreach to renters in that neighborhood and works on anti-displacement policies. And they also do a lot of work with the small business owners along the East Colfax corridor. And so they have some specific volunteer needs around that, plus a food pantry. Another kind of the Greater Park Hill community also runs a food pantry and they lost their federal funding. And for I think a significant grant that funded the food pantry. And so they, excuse me, the board president for that group actually asked, you know, do you know of any like funding organizations or foundations locally or within Colorado that we should be reaching out to make up that shortfall? So just kind of keeping open lines of communication. And another part of just the very low hanging fruit. And I guess, is there anybody here who did not see my email about the Go Bond letter or read the draft of the letter? Okay. So the DEI committee, thank you. Thank you very much. The DEI committee is planning to send out a letter of support for the tier 1 and tier 2 priorities that the City Council District 8 office identified. The majority of those priorities they've submitted are things like libraries and rec centers for neighborhoods around us. And part of part of that is, you know, part of the foundational value of our development plan for the Central Park community is social equity. And so part of social equity is recognizing areas where we can advocate for fairness and justice for our neighbors. And it feels like a very simple and easy way to support is to tell the executive committee, hey, these are good ideas. Please include these in the general obligation bond that's coming out in November. So what we were asking of the board, CPUN board in general, is would the board be supportive of sending out that letter from the board itself and not just from a committee for CPUN? So that's, you know, that's kind of the ask we can vote on, and I think we have a quorum if folks are interested in that. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, and my apologies. I didn't have that screen open where you had everything kind of queued up for me. I could have just gone through it nice and easily there. But yeah, it's all on the screen. Some of the other events that we've had, the Sand Creek Massacre and the state capitol visit.
Yeah, I guess everyone's kind of staring around.
The board signing on.
So
I've been traveling.
So, okay, so I think we can just kind of like formally say like, you know, motion to like send the support letter from the CPUN board. Then you second?
Alright.
Okay, and I think, I guess just, if there's folks in the chat have a problem with it, put it in the chat on the Zoom. Otherwise, we can do a show of hands, here in the room for, votes in favor.
Hey, Liz, you can just ask for any objections. You don't have to take a
Okay.
formal vote.
Thank you, Brian. Any objections? It's always a lot less formal than I assume it's going to be. Okay, all right, we'll send, thank you all. We'll send the letter on CPUN letterhead. If y'all are okay, I'll be listing the full board members by name. And then probably ask somebody from the CEI committee if they wanted to give public comment during the executive committee meeting next week, but it's the last one before they approve the projects that are going to go to city councils. So, okay, health and safety. So David and Amanda, it's now 8:27. Let us know how fast.
This is sort of a committee that's been, it revived from the dead, in a sense. So like we've sort of just been doing individual things and we're trying to formalize it. So we're planning on meeting the third Tuesday of the even numbered months at 5:30 right before the regular CPUN meetings. So figuring out the location, purpose, connecting with community resources, partnering with city agencies and nonprofits. Believe that safety is beyond just a community with without crime. So you can go on to the next one if you want. Some of the things that we've done in the past, we had a speaker from Keisha Sarpong from the Colorado Domestic Violence Fatality Review Board at the Rosa Andem Center came and spoke to the committee and then to the entire board. Amanda was talking a lot about, do you want to talk about the board, the block captain stuff?
Oh, historically, we partnered with Denver Police to facilitate the block. Well, so the next two bullet points, the Block Captain Network and the promotion of Block Party Day. Those two things have sort of gone in totally different directions with Denver Days sort of coming with Hancock and like doing its own thing, and then the block captain sort of really being like taken back by Denver Police. And so CPUN sort of had not been facilitating either one of those, but historically that was like a major role of the committee.
And then the last thing is kind of just being a liaison with different committees around the Quebec corridor. So like the Good Neighbor Committee for Housing and Homelessness stuff, the task force, the Quebec Corridor Task Force with Councilwoman Lewis's office, the Task Force to Reimagine Policing and Public Safety, commanders meetings with DPD, just working with the District 8 City Council office and then different park rangers as well. So it's kind of where we're at currently. Yeah, a lot of opportunity with this committee.
So if folks are interested in getting involved in that, David and Amanda.
I got some ideas.
Yeah, oh great.
Just while we're on the topic of,
Yeah.
I just received a flyer today that Mile High Pickleball has a new program. Anybody over 65 can play for free if you have supplemental insurance. It'll be covered with your supplemental insurance. Super cool though. I mean,
What is supplemental insurance?
it's
Like,
beyond Medicare.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, which, you know, a lot of people do, not everybody does.
Yeah.
But if you do have that, it's fully covered. You can go play pickleball there, which I think is fabulous.
Can you
I've
share?
got a flyer.
I was to say, all of this is, this is content for the email
Yeah.
newsletter, so if you can all share that. And then I think, yeah, as you're attending all of these meetings, I guess, like, kind of, or, you know, with different task forces or agents, like thinking of like, how does this apply to the Central Park community, and how can we, but I guess like how, I think like if the committee could kind of digest a lot of that information, like a lot of that information, and try to think about like, okay, how do we apply this within our own community? Would be really helpful, and it kind of goes along with like the communication platform that we have. Okay, honestly, like, comms and outreach, I will say for the past year, this has been like, I keep saying, other than the survey, so thank you, like Heather and Amanda, bottlenecking actually getting that stuff up on the website, so I will.
I owe you.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's Amanda's fault. We'll get it up. But apart from the community survey, which I think it was a really, like, it was a heavy lift. I think it was very successful. But there are other aspects of communications and outreach, particularly the outreach side, that I do think we need to kind of recalibrate. So I think that with David coming on as the secretary, let's meet in the next month. It was historically the third Wednesday of each month. I think we had moved it to the third Wednesday of every other month, but now I can't remember whether it was the odd or even month. So we need to talk about.
We'll talk. Yeah.
We need to talk about that. But I will say, if there are folks who are not currently involved in committees, who are kind of free floating, I think that there is a lot, like basically it's communications, outreach, and fundraising and volunteer coordination. And so Kristen actually has very generously volunteered to be our liaison for the welcome bags with the community. And we're kind of working out some of the wrinkles in that process, which is to say Kristen is working out the wrinkles in that process at the moment. But those are all kind of functions that come under comms and outreach. We've wanted to do a lot more outreach to renters in the community. I know, Elizabeth, you joined the board specifically because you saw we were looking for renters. So I would love to like just have you kind of talk about, I mean, we don't have to do a spotlight on you, but just your experiences and recommendations for better outreach, you know, with renters, and particularly like all of the new apartments that are coming online. And I think, again, Kristen, during the survey outreach, you did a good job of getting contact information for the property managers for those new apartments. And then when we did the mini golf event, I actually was able to get flyers in all of those buildings as well. So we're kind of taking baby steps there, but basically stay tuned on that. And then Heather, we don't have to talk about sustainability right now.
We have concepts of a plan, but.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts on sustainability?
Just like super brief, yeah, Dave and I have met, and we did host a meeting in April with Dottie. We had someone from the solid waste program talk about recycling, compost, and trash. And it was actually like really interesting information. But I think we'll probably move to sort of like having meetings when we have something like, we've reached out to Suncor and they've told us, no, we can't tour their facility. So that's not gonna happen. But we're on the waiting list to tour with the city with the composting and recycling when they open that back up to the public. And we wanna do something probably like with safe streets of like a bike walk, the Arsenal, Bluff Lake. But I think like the big thing we wanna drive towards is and it might not happen this year because we're already in June, is like a community information thing for people who have revitalized their hill strip or the tree lawn. So I think a lot of people are looking for better ways to do it that isn't just rock. So I don't know, that could look like a walking, biking tour or something online, but I think
The city is paying people to take.
yeah, there's that subsidy right now, right?
And you can either take money or you can take the garden boxes. They have varieties of garden boxes. Yeah, and you get 4 of them or something like that. So yes, there's.
The tree lawn, it's like the strip
Tree
of
lawn
grass
is-
between the street and your sidewalk.
Yeah. But for the survey, there was a lot of interest in like, where is Denver at with sustainability challenges? So I don't know, I'm working on seeing if we can reach out and maybe the CASR office, someone can present.
Well, I think that's something that came up, I remember in your interview with the board, Elizabeth was talking about like just having events that are actually in our open spaces and green spaces. So that can, I mean, it's both outreach and also just kind of sustainability, but there's already that, you know, when Bluff Lakes construction is done, they already have a number of events, even just having a meetup.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, see, we're gonna have some, you know, come with coffee, join us for this like nature walk that they're gonna have at the Arsenal. At Bluff Lake, like it's just a way to meet neighbors and enjoy the spaces that we have.
Or maybe MCA would waive the fee for using some of the park.
They're actually very good, like when we did the, it was kind of a failure, the like harvest event, just because nothing was harvestable, I think at the time that we wound up having it. But that was a free, like the MCA let us use that part of conservatory. So I think they're very amenable to it, and there's a number of community gardens, in the neighborhood too.
We ever done like a neighborhood trash pickup at the parks? Is that part of the sustainability?
See, the Central Park Business Association actually has done, I think they've hosted a few of those parks, usually around Earth Day. And we participated, I know Dave, I don't know if anybody else did, David and I participated in the Give 5 Mile High, cleanup, actually all along, Quebec and down to Sand Creek. Which was actually, it was
really fun.
it was a lot of fun, like we had little vests and trash bags, and it made a significant difference. It's just something that you realize, oh, this has to kind of be constantly like you need to have much more frequent than just kind of like this one-off like feel good event. Like it was a good event, but it also is something that requires maintenance. So I think, yeah, was it you, David, like who described it as like the committees are like a choose your own adventure. So I just want to encourage folks to get involved in the committees, the folks who are in leadership on the committees, like please just like think creatively about how we want to engage the community. Because again, we're here on a Tuesday night for a meeting, but most folks don't want to come out to a meeting, and I don't blame them. So we can think about other ways of connecting Central Park.
I would say I need to get more involved in committees. But I will offer myself up if anybody needs help, like crunching data, not to the extent of her expertise, but spreadsheets, things for anything spreadsheet, pivot tables, anything that would help you understand something in your space better. I'm great at connecting with people, follow-ups, all this stuff. I'm happy to like send emails, connect with people, whatever. And then anything technical. I'm happy to like I teach seniors digital literacy. So anything like that, you're like, gosh, I wish I knew how to do XYZ, it would make my life easier. Or if we could only know how to do this.
We want to think about how to restart the block captain system. Scale, like that would be really helpful.
In like 30 seconds, I used to have a map. I still have these maps. Show you of every block in the whole community numbered. And then I could go online and see the parcel that somebody wrote to me with their name. It's creepy. I have listed all of the residents who own homes and their names, and I can figure out where they live, and then I can go back to the map and say, and I mean, that just takes a lot of time for each
Purpose to tell them who their block captain is.
So So like every month we would get like, 4 or 5 people, or every week or so, there'd be 4 or 5 people like interested in who their block captain was. So there, it just wasn't automated and it was more contained when the neighborhood was just south of I-70. But I think that having it be as large as it is now, that's not
Yeah.
manageable.
Well, maybe there's something like a drill down. You know,
But it also, I don't think it should be
Online.
publicly posted.
no
so-
names, but I mean, parcel, like, is our parcels?
But then like, how do I contact my block captain would be the.
I wonder if there's a way, anyway, I
Yeah,
think that
anyway,
this is like
I
what
can
we could
research
start
it.
thinking of.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's a Google map, like you have, the way that the city has the RNO map, you put in your address and it tells you what RNOs like serve. your-
I'm happy to
Like,
jump on
so,
that kind of thing. And can I say something about the welcome backs at some point?
yes, no, definitely,
Yeah.
no, now's a good time.
That's big time. Okay, so there are 12 board members here. If you haven't already done this, it's super fun. You don't actually have to talk to anybody.
you don't.
Today in the rain, I was like running out of my car. Cause I finally got the so there's 12 of you. If everyone took like 2 bags, that's it, just 2 bags. One person, I'll take 3. And then we're covered. I have 26 bags over here. And what all you do, cause nobody really explained this to me. They're just like, take a bag. I'm like, what? CPBA, so the Business Association of Owners, Residents who own the businesses in the neighborhood, they put a bunch of swag into bags and reusable bags. And it's meant to be a little like welcome to the neighborhood gift for people who've just moved into the neighborhood. I don't know if you got one. I think I might have got one. It's 10 years ago, so I'm not sure. And you don't have to talk to anybody. If you don't want to, you can just go up to the door and just leave it. I usually, if there's a ring camera, I'm like, hey, hi, I'm Kristen from CPUN. I explain what CPUN is, what CPBA is. Hope you enjoy your little gifts and welcome to the neighborhood. Apologies if it's been late. So I'd appreciate it if everybody took some, because otherwise I'm gonna have to.
Question.
Yes.
How are we gonna, I'll take as many as you want.
Yes, I have- I'm going to ask you to put the number of bags
So,
and your name and your address.
yeah.
And then I will assign you addresses to drop them off if you tell me your address
Yeah.
close to your home. Okay.
So you'll.
I just need how many bags you're taking, your name and your address, and then I will send you by
Send me
email, the 2 or 3 addresses, please, just a few. Oh, yes, we can.
While we're doing that, I'll let folks go. Again, no meeting in July, but we will have a happy hour. So stay tuned for those details since, 3rd Tuesday of the month is generally blocked off on my calendar, but it's just not for us just to as a board without an agenda. So we'll send out information. As we get closer to that, then deeper dive into the 56th Ave CPB school corridor traffic safety. I'm wondering if we had time to talk about the block captain system at that point. If we do, we do, if it's far enough along to want to talk about that, that would be great. Otherwise, we can move that to another month. And then September, Central Park artists will be presenting on their organization in open studios. That'll be happening later that month. And then we'll either have to have part of that meeting will be the DPS board candidate forum, or if we can get a separate and have that on a separate date, that'll be a separate event.
I think that has to be a separate.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we're done with the June meeting. Everybody enjoy your summers. Happy summer. Safe travels for anybody who's traveling. I will be traveling very soon. And I will see you all in July.